Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Hi, everybody. I am Donna, and I am the messenger here when it comes to my love for microbes and all they can do. I love to talk about it. It's what my shows are about, what my blog's about, what my books are about. And I love to tell people that I don't ever have to convince anybody. These foods that I make that have billions of microbes in them, called cultured foods, will convince you if you try them. And I don't have to. It happens again and again. People find out for themselves how wonderful these foods are and how wonderful they work for people. And I am the messenger. That's my job. And today we're going to talk about all these wonderful things that microbes can do for your body, for your emotions, for your health, but how important it is to feed these microbes. And it's quite impressive, the things that most people are unaware of, and the magnitude of that the 100 trillion microbes that live inside of us can do. It's a tremendous amount of work they do on our behalf all day long, 24 hours a day, that we're not even aware of. And there's more of them inside of you and on you than in stars in the Milky Way galaxy. And it abides all around you all the time, creating your life in a way that you couldn't have without them. And we live in harmony with bacteria and fungi and all these microorganisms that everybody's afraid of. And we tend to get things messed up when we start pushing against them and killing them constantly and not considering that 99% of the microbes that make you their home are keeping you well. And it's an amazing thing what happens when you harness that power and you begin to live in harmony with them like never before. Okay, to keep them happy, to keep these trillions of microbes happy, you got to feed them. And first you have to have the good strains of bacteria in you. And if you live in this day and age, as we all do, most likely your gut flora has been diminished due to chemicals, high probably processed foods, antibiotics, antibacterial soaps. There is a lot of things out there that are killing the microbes that are good in helping us. Now, there's also harmful microbes, the pathogens that can flourish too. But if you have a lot of good microbes and you have a lot of good gut bacteria, you don't have to worry about that because they will keep them in check. And it's only when you kill them all off with antibiotics or with antibacterial soaps or chemicals or your diet or even stress do you need to worry about the microbes inside of you. There's an excellent way to take care of them. And this is by adding these foods that I love called cultured foods. And if you're unfamiliar with these special foods, then you simply need to go to my website, culturedfoodlife.com, or you can get my free ebook or look at stuff on my website or look in my books or look on YouTube. I've got lots of videos and begin to understand that everything you need to understand microbes, I have for you. And I have made it very easy for everybody and it's free. And one of the most important things that I like to tell people is that fiber is so important in our diet, not specifically for us as we don't get a lot of nutrients or calories from fiber, but your microbes do. And new studies have revealed just how much we take for granted all this roughage and fiber that we eat. Foods like garlic and leeks and berries and fruits and nuts and seeds and grains all have these special fibers called soluble fibers. And there's two types of fibers, soluble and insoluble fibers. And we can't really digest and get calories from them, but our bacteria can. And when we do, they thrive and grow and multiply and make our inner ecosystem a powerful force for good in our lives. It can make you feel happy. It can make you feel calm. It can make you feel fantastic. It can make you feel like $1 million. And guys, the main reason I do this is because I remember what it was like so many years ago to feel bad. I didn't even know how good I could feel till I realized when I was feeling bad, I didn't realize how good I could feel because I had never experienced that. And I really want you to experience how cool your body is and how cool your microbes are and how much they control your life. And when you harness that power and understand it and work in harmony with it, everything changes because you start to feel better. You wake up to life again because when you feel good, you do good. It's just a side effect of being healthy. And what's interesting as we feed our microbes, remember there's 100 trillion of them, and you feed them with fiber, they will work to fight against intestinal infections. They'll keep the mucosal lining intact and keep out pathogens. They create different neurochemicals that help our bodies feel calm. And they call the gut the second brain, and rightfully so, because if most people who have psychological problems or have anxiety have got something going on in their gut that they're not aware of. And if you listen to I think it was my podcast last week, I talked about that, how that more and more psychiatrists are prescribing probiotics for their patients. And when they fix their gut, they fix their emotional problems. And personally, I have found that to be true within myself. And it is a wonderful thing when you can find foods that can help you in ways that you never imagined. And they're not drugs and they don't have side effects. It's just food. And it's exciting to me that now the world is catching up to all of this. All of the science and research is coming in droves that is starting to understand how our bodies and our emotions really work. According to a study now published in the online journal called Cell, fiber deprivation causes the gut microbes in animal studies to begin to eat the mucosal lining of their gut. If this deprivation is allowed to continue for too long, it can cause a complete erosion of the gut. And that will allow all kinds of harmful bacteria to infect the colon wall. And researchers said they're finding this could have really huge implications for possible uses of fiber against the effect of so many digestive tract disorders. In fact, there's a researcher, and I think his name, was Eric Martins, and he explained in a recent statement the lessons that we're learning from studying the interaction of fiber and gut microbes and the intestinal barrier system is that if you don't feed these microbes, they can eat you. And guys, I saw this firsthand with my daughter when she was 16, my daughter Macy. And it was many years ago when we had just first started making cultured foods. And she had been on an extremely low-carb Atkins type of a diet. And I'm not against low-carb diet as long as there's a lot of fiber in the diet. But she wasn't eating a lot of fiber. And she was pretty much a normal 16-year-old time. She was doing it for weight loss or whatever. But after a year or so on this diet, she, with very little fiber in it, she started having all kinds of stomach issues. And it was pretty intense. It got worse and worse. And then she became allergic to foods she was eating. And she was also taking antibiotics at the time, or maybe for a short amount of time. I think she had a sinus infection. And combine that with her lack of fiber in her diet, and she got into real problems. And she started having irritable bowel syndrome. We took her to the doctor. We took her to all these people. Nobody knew what to do. And I went on a mission to fix my daughter because the doctor had said, well, maybe it's her gallbladder. Maybe we should take it out. I'm like, well, she's 16. And I don't want to take it out on a whim. I want to know that that's what's wrong. And I said, I can do better than that. And I went home and I started researching, and there really wasn't a lot of research. But what I did was I gave her a cultured food at every meal. And every time she ate, her stomach hurt. She had a lot of food allergies. And every time she had a cultured food, her stomach would quit hurting and she could digest the meal and it wouldn't hurt. So I made her take a cultured food at every meal. She had kefir for breakfast. She had cultured vegetables with just a spoonful for lunch and dinner and some kombucha tea. And she did it at every meal. And within 3 weeks, her stomach quit hurting. And within a month or two, some of her food allergies started going away. And within a year, she could eat anything and wasn't allergic to anything anymore. And I attribute that to she ate a lot of fiber. She had a lot of prebiotic fiber in her diet. And I didn't even know that we were doing that. I was giving her this special tea that was a massive prebiotic. And I didn't know it. I just knew she liked it and she couldn't handle coffee because it hurt her stomach, or she couldn't handle a lot of foods. but she could handle this tea and she really liked it. And I thought it was good for her because I liked the ingredients in it. But it was loaded with all kinds of things like chicory root, dandelion. It had coconut oil in it. It had all these things in there which started to heal Macy's gut. And it was also feeding her microbes along with the probiotic foods that she was eating, the cultured foods. And lo and behold, it fixed her. But I didn't know why. Well, years later down the road, research kind of caught up with what had happened, because I started telling people when they had digestive issues that they needed to eat a cultured food at every meal, and they were all getting better and their food allergies were going away. And what I discovered is that often food allergies, more than often, it's becoming more and more common that people have been taking antibiotics, killing off gut bacteria, and when they put that gut bacteria back in, the food allergies go away. And I'm seeing this all the time in my line of work. And the way you put that back in is by eating cultured or probiotic foods and then eating lots of fiber to correct that imbalance. And that's what happened to Macy. And I do believe that her low carb diet, because her lack of fiber, really hurt her gut along with antibiotics. And you can't really expect all fibers to have the same functions. Like we don't expect vitamins to do the same thing. But mixing different types of fiber, and especially these prebiotic fibers, they work together and they just feed that good bacteria. And when that good bacteria starts to grow and multiply, they do their job so efficiently because bacteria wants numbers. They want to have a certain amount of numbers. And when they have that amount of numbers, then they do their job. But everybody's fighting for dominance in your gut. All these different strains of bacteria, good and bad, and yeast, and we've got good yeast and harmful yeast, and we've got them all having like a little party down in your gut. It's like a whole other universe down there. And only when the right bacteria have the right amount of numbers do they dominate and control the environment in a way where they keep the pathogens low or out of the body. And because we do need certain amount of things in our gut, even the things that people think are harmful, we need small amounts of in the gut because they do stuff. For instance, this is a really interesting thing. A lot of people will have problems with ulcers, and they'll take antibiotics to kill off, different strains of bacteria that can be causing ulcers or digestive problems. And when they do, what happens is they wipe out all this bacteria. And when these harmful bacteria need to stay in small amounts because they still have a job to do. But when you wipe them all out, then other things take over, and then you get things like heartburn and other problems because that little tiny bacteria that everybody thinks is bad and we should just wipe it out was actually doing something and controlling something. For instance, Candida's that way. Everybody wants to get completely rid of Candida, but you need it because Candida digests heavy metal things in your body that your regular digestive system cannot handle. It can digest it for you. So you need small amounts of it. You just don't need large amounts. And the way you control that is by having lots of good bacteria that keeps yeast in a smaller portion of the body where the good bacteria dominates, but it's over there in the corner. And it's that way with E. coli, and it's that way with different strains of bacteria in your body. You still need these. You really do. You just need them in the proper amounts. And that's why having a lot of good fiber in your diet, and prebiotics are basically food for bacteria. They call them fertilizers. When you eat lots of those, the good bacteria grows and flourishes. And then you don't have to worry about this anymore because they do the job for you. Now, I want to go over some of my favorite foods for microbes and how to feed them and make them happy. Okay, I'm going to tell you all about the prebiotics. And I wish I had known about this many years ago, but it really will help you because it will make you look at your food, because the food can work like medicine in your body. It's just, think of all the chemical processes going on in your body and all the vitamins and minerals, all the food that your body is taking in and making the cells of your body. Well, if you understand what some of these foods do, it encourages you to eat more of them, and it really helps you. And you'll start seeing benefits in your life. So let me tell you about some of these prebiotic foods, which are mostly fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. But I want to tell you about how they work and which ones you should be eating. Okay, for instance, asparagus. Asparagus contains 5% prebiotic content. It diminishes the prebiotics when it's cooked really heavily. So you can cook it a little bit and still get those prebiotics. But when you just cook it till it's falling apart, you're going to lose the prebiotic benefits. So eat it raw or lightly cooked, And then you're going to get 5% prebiotic fiber from asparagus. It's really good for you. Acacia, which is often called acacia gum, contains 86% prebiotic content. It's a huge, good prebiotic. And it's used a lot of times as a food stabilizer. It has a huge amount of fiber in it, and it's essential for strengthening the population of good bacteria in your gut. And one place to find this is in a prebiotic supplement that I sell called Prebio Plus. It's one of the prebiotics in this product. I add it to my tea because it isn't affected by heat, or I often put it in our salad dressings, the homemade cultured salad dressings I make. You can sprinkle it on a salad. You can put it on. I put it in my kefir, and it's wonderful since you can use it hot or cold. And it has huge amounts of prebiotics in it. It's so good for you. Bananas, we're kind of going in alphabetical order here. Bananas contain 1% prebiotic content. Green bananas and plantains contain up to 3% prebiotic fiber, depending on how ripe they are. The greener they are, the more prebiotics they contain, and they're so, so good for you. Berries, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, boysenberries, they contain about 3% prebiotic content, and eating them raw is the best way to get lots of prebiotics in your diet. Carrots, cabbage, apples, they all contain between 1% to 2% prebiotic content. And I love my carrots and apples and use them daily. And, you can use them in juices because even if you juice something, you're going to get the soluble fiber, which is the prebiotic fiber. That's why juicing is so good for you, because you don't get the insoluble fiber, but you do get the soluble fiber. And that's the one that really counts because that's the one that feeds your microbes. And I make a ton of sauerkraut with apples and carrots. And so that way I get probiotics and prebiotics in my cultured vegetables, which is so important because you're getting both. So it's a great way to get both of them. Chicory root or inulin is 64.6% prebiotic content. Inulin is made from chicory root, and it is a huge, powerful prebiotic. This is the one that we used with my daughter Macy. She had a lot of inulin or chicory root. She had it in her tea. We also had like a stevia had it in there. It was sweet leaf stevia. I like this stevia product. And the powder formula of this, not the liquid, has inulin as a, I don't know why they put it in there. I don't know if it's a filler, but it's just inulin, and it's so good for you. And she had a lot of that along with the tea that she drank. And it was made from chicory root and coconut and nuts and seeds. But those two things made a huge deal because she drank them every day. So she was feeding the probiotic foods that she was eating. She was feeding with the prebiotic teas and with this chicory root or inulin. Those are the two names. They're the same thing. They just call them by different names. When you take a chicory root and you roast it, you reduce some of its potency, and it's kind of better to take it. You can roast it and it doesn't hurt you. You won't get as much fiber, but it's so strong you'll still get tons and tons of it anyway. So I recommend having it any way you can. It's wonderful, and it's a wonderful thing it also helps have a tiny bit of sweetness to your food. Not a lot, but it does do a little bit, and you don't even really notice it. But I love to put it even in my iced tea. I'll put it in my iced tea, and it's fantastic. It's a wonderful thing. Even for baked goods, I put it in there too, and it works really well. Gives it a little bit of sweetness. You can also find chicory root in many coffee alternatives, it really was a coffee alternative that we were giving Macy, but they called it a tea, and it was wonderful. And there's so many on the market. You can type in chicory root tea or chicory root coffee, and you're going to find a bunch of them. Dandelion greens contain 24.3% prebiotic content, and these are so delicious on salads and very enjoyable raw. Now, most people don't think of dandelion as something to eat. But they are really good for you. But if you don't want to eat them, they also are a coffee substitute in drinks too. And that was also in the drink that I had served with for Macy, was dandelion and chicory root. So together they were a powerful prebiotic. And I think I've seen them at places, at any health food store and on Amazon. But they are also a powerful prebiotic. Now, raw garlic contains 17.5% prebiotic content. And as it ferments, garlic gets really, really bubbly and delicious. And we ferment our garlic, and we didn't know why garlic would get so bubbly, but it was because it was a prebiotic. And it's one of my favorite things to have in the fridge. I just throw some cloves into a jar. I have a little culture and put it in the jar and cover it with water. And then I have this huge jar of garlic cloves in there that I use all the time for baking now or cooking. Cooking does diminish some of it, but there's so many prebiotics in garlic that actually they still stay pretty strong even if you cook them. You just roasting them for long periods of time does diminish them a little bit, but they are fabulous, fabulous prebiotic, and I recommend it. And if you want the recipe for my fermented garlic, go to my website and go to the recipe section at culturedfoodlife.com. Go to the recipe section and then look under cultured vegetables or type in raw garlic in the search. Fermented garlic, I think, is what the title of it is, and you'll find that recipe. Seeds are also prebiotic, and there's so many different seeds you can have. Flax seeds contain the most of all the seeds, and they are 3% prebiotic fiber. They've been shown also to improve insulin sensitivity and modify the whole gut microbiota because it really works well for people who have any kind of diabetes or insulin problems. Flax seeds are so powerful, and I use them a lot in things. I like to toast them a little bit and put them on my kefir, but they have so many prebiotics in them. I think that's why they're so wonderful for people. Anytime you have any kind of insulin sensitivity or diabetes, I'd really recommend that you check and see how many prebiotics you're having in your diet. We have the Prebio Plus and everything, but start out slowly with that. But if you could start having just a little bit of that, and I'm talking about a fourth to a half a teaspoon, you don't need very much, and start putting it in any of your foods because it doesn't really change the taste of it. You're just start to, along with cultured foods, you'll start to build the good bacteria, and it really helps insulin sensitivity. It makes you more sensitive to insulin. It helps your blood sugars, but you need to start very, very slowly because usually your gut's already out of whack, and this is a lot of good, powerful fiber that can create a little bit of ruckus. You're going to have some rumbling, and you're going to be cleaning out some stuff, and you might even have diarrhea because let me tell you something, these things help to grow the good bacteria, and when they do, they want to get rid of the harmful pathogens. And when pathogens die, when other harmful bacteria and yeast die, they give off toxins. For instance, Candida gives off 70 different toxins, and so it can kind of be uncomfortable. So go slowly with this because prebiotics are powerful food-like medicines. Okay, this is probably one of my very favorite ones. It's called FOS, fructooligosaccharides. It's 35% prebiotic content, and I just love this fiber. It is made from fruits and vegetables such as bananas, onions, chicory root, garlic, asparagus, jicama, and leeks. And it's the subgroup of inulin. It's similar to the one that we talked about earlier that was chicory root, but it's a combination of a bunch of them. And boy, is it powerful. I have seen huge improvements in my life when I added it to my diet. It's also in many prebiotic supplements such as the Prebio Plus I sell. Bodycology sells a really good one called Eco Bloom. It's in that one. It's part of the sweet leaf stevia. It's got the inulin and all of those. It is so powerful and it's so good for you. But again, start slowly with this because it really does change your gut microbes. Grains such as wheat and barley also contain FOS naturally. And Jerusalem artichokes, which is a relative to different vegetables that is kind of works with blue agave nectar too. The plant, it has been found to have the highest concentrations of FOS in all of the plants on the planet. And it's got to be raw. It's not in agave nectar as much because agave nectar is highly processed and so a lot of it gets killed. But if you can get raw agave, the agave plant itself or the nectar, then you're going to get a lot of FOS. And you can also get it in the Prebio Plus, which is on my website at culturedfoodlife.com, or I think it's on Amazon, or Bodycology has the great one, Eco Bloom. That's good too. You can get it in that, and it's going to help you. Just don't use a whole lot. I'll start off the bat, or you're gonna notice. Honey is a really unique one. It contains 3 to 4% prebiotic content. And the interesting thing about honey is that it's also antibacterial as well as prebiotic. And that can confuse a lot of people. How does it kill bacteria and also help it grow? Well, the antibacterial qualities protect the honey from harmful microorganisms when it's in the hive. So they have that antibacterial quality. But honey contains unique oligosaccharides that have been very important prebiotic activity that works to increase the really important probiotics in your gut, bifidobacteria and lactobacillus in the body. And it does that quite efficiently, and it does it really well. And it specifically seems to target that certain bacteria. And so small amounts of honey in your diet can be very helpful for you. I think it's one of the best sweeteners we have because it seems to work so well to feed the good bacteria. But again, you need to get the raw honey in order to really receive the benefits. Jerusalem artichoke is such a rich prebiotic fiber, but not very many people know about it or cook with it or use it. But it contains 31% prebiotic content, and it can be eaten lightly cooked to obtain all of the prebiotic benefits. And it's so, so good for you. That's a very high amount for a vegetable. And it's one of the things they use to make some of these prebiotic fibers. It helps to populate the gut in such a powerful way. I think one of my very favorite prebiotics is Leeks and Jicama, and I just love these two. They both contain about 12% prebiotic content, and they are both some of my favorite veggies. I am absolutely crazy for leeks, and I love jicama, and I ferment jicama. I have a wonderful recipe on my website called Jicama If You're Sickama, and it's simply just two things. It's jicama cut up into sticks, or you can chop it up. You can do however you want. And I add a little bit of orange zest in it with a little bit of orange juice, and it is just the most delicious cultured vegetable. I've been eating it for the last 3 months because I made a bunch, and I love it because I can just pull one of those little sticks out of the jar. They have a sweet and tangy taste, and they taste so good. I mean, if you got picky eaters in your house, I highly recommend you try my recipe, Jicama If You're Sickama. And I actually made a video on it. I love it so much. It's on YouTube. And you just type in jicama if you're sickama. And jicama is kind of like, they call it the Mexican potato. It's kind of sweet and crunchy. It's wonderful in salads, but it has a lot of prebiotic content in it. And boy, does it make a fantastic cultured food. It gets real bubbly. I actually made these and sold these in a health food store many, many years ago when I first found cultured food. And we kept selling out all the time. And I'm like, I can't make these all the time. I really didn't like being in the manufacturing business. I liked writing and speaking. And so I kind of quit doing that and gave everybody the recipe because I really wanted people to enjoy it. I just didn't want to have to spend my days making them every day. And boy, it's a fantastic recipe. And it would be, you would really, trust me, you would really like it. It's got a fabulous flavor and it's easy to make. It's just 2 ingredients. And you can go to my website or you can go to YouTube and see the video. It's a lot of fun. And it's so good for you because it's got probiotics and prebiotics in it. I love leeks, and I've got a lot of recipes in my book, butternut squash, cultured vegetables. I've got leek soups in my cultured food for health book, and I've got it in my flu prevention cultured vegetables. I think that's on my website and in my books. I've got a lot of them, and I just love them because there's so many wonderful things you can do with it. And I love it because people share with me their ideas, and then I learn new ways to make them too. Now, legumes and rice, potatoes, and sweet potatoes contain 2 to 7% prebiotic content. Legumes and potatoes also contain resistant starch, which is an altogether other type of prebiotic fiber. And resistant starch, it does what it says. It resists being digested in the small intestine until it reaches the large intestine where it's fermented by bacteria. And it stimulates the growth of good bacteria in the large intestines and boosts the production of short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which is a powerful anti-inflammatory effect that goes on in your gut when you make a lot of butyrate. It's fantastic for you. And you want more of that in your system because it helps prevent cancers, promotes weight loss, it boosts your immune system, It's just a powerful thing that your body makes for you that's super cool, that keeps you healthy. And it's really easy to get that when you have potatoes, legumes, sweet potatoes, rice. But here's the secret. It kind of needs to be, when you make potatoes, it kind of works the best if you cool the potatoes after you cook them. And then you get the most resistant starch from like if you make a potato salad or legumes, if you cool them and then eat them, you're going to get a lot more resistant starch, which is going to be really good for you. But even if you just cook them and eat them, they're still going to get a lot, but you'll just get more if you do it that way. Onions also contain about 8.6% prebiotic content. And cooked onions still have about 5%. But much like garlic, if the fiber turns to sugar when you cook it too long. So raw or lightly cooked is best. Okay, nuts contain anywhere from 1 to 6% prebiotic content, and even roasted nuts can get prebiotic fibers in them. And they're so good for you. I wrote a whole thing about nuts on my website and how much better people do when they have just a few nuts in their daily lives. There's been studies on thousands and thousands of people on how it helps with everything from obesity to heart disease, because it has so many elements to it. Vitamin E is abundant in nuts and seeds, but there's also a lot of prebiotic content in it. And they're so good for you. So a handful of nuts a day is great. It feeds your gut microbes, and it also helps many other processes in the body that you don't want to neglect. Now, whole grains, oats, quinoa, millet, buckwheat, all of these grains contain 2 to 5% prebiotic fiber, depending on what they are. And I like to eat grains mostly soaked or sprouted because it deactivates the enzyme inhibitors and phthalates and keeps them from harming the gut, because most of the seeds or the grains and the seeds that we eat are locked up. They keep the nutrients inside until they're sprouted or soaked. And so, I use them in my sourdough starters. I also I make an overnight breakfast pudding with the oatmeal. I like to soak my oatmeal before I eat it the day before. And it works so much better. You get the nutrients get unlocked. The phthalates that can damage your gut will be eliminated. And you'll get lots more vitamins and minerals when you do that. Oats have a lot of soluble fiber. And so does quinoa, millet, and buckwheat. So they're really good for you if you have problems with wheat. It really has a huge benefit, and we're seeing more and more people eating these foods, and they're so good for you. And they also make wonderful meals. Like quinoa will make a wonderful meal for me. We'll make a veggie bowl with maybe some other foods in it, like chicken or shrimp or something. We'll make a big bowl, put it over quinoa with some avocado. It's fantastic with lots of veggies, roasted or raw. That's one of my favorite things to have for dinner or lunch. And it's fantastic for your gut too. Okay. Prebio Plus, Sweet Leaf Stevia, EcoBloom all contain tons of prebiotics, and they're supplements that you can buy. And they all have 86% prebiotic fiber, which is the most of anything. And Prebio Plus has the most because it has 3 different types of prebiotics. And it has inulin, and it has FOS, and acacia, it has that in there. And Sweet Leaf Stevia contains inulin, as so does EcoBloom. They each have inulin in them, which is huge. And inulin is FOS, which is fructooligosaccharides, and that is 41% fiber content. And so the other one has 86, but you're still getting a ton from any of these that you use. You can find them on Amazon. You can find them on my website at culturedfoodlife.com. I sell Prebio Plus and the Sweet Leaf Stevia and EcoBloom you can find online somewhere, either on Amazon or on Donna Gates sells EcoBloom, and Sweet Leaf Stevia is fantastic. I have links to it on my website, and you can find it. I see it at health food stores all the time, but always get the powder ones, because the powder ones are the ones that have the inulin in it that's going to help your gut. And if you do get them, add them to your dishes by adding them to your coffee or your tea, or sprinkling on salads, or I put them in dressings. I've even been known to put them in ketchup a couple of times. I do that often. It gives a little bit of a sweetness, but it also gives it some fiber to it. So my kids are always going to, and my family is always going to be eating ketchup. And I usually make my own, or mustard, and I just add it in there. You don't need very much. 1/8 of a teaspoon is a huge amount. And so I add it to things like that all the time. Is that anything that you do, whether it's cultured foods, probiotic foods, or prebiotic fuels, you want to allow your body time to adjust. And you're going to get a serious amount of rumbling and grumbling if you just go head wild into this. So I recommend you go slowly. I mean, 1/4 of a teaspoon is a lot for one day. And, these fibers will ferment and they will grow and they will multiply, and you're going to hear it in your gut if you're not used to it. So, but it's so important to do, to have the right good bacteria in your gut, and to also have these prebiotic fibers in your gut so that you can be healthy. And there is no better way to do that than with food, because it is just food and it works in a fantastic way. So concentrate on feeding your microbes lots of healthy probiotic foods and prebiotic fibers and fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grain. And then watch as your microbes take care of you from the inside out. They're going to make you feel better, guys. You're going to see the difference in your life, and I'm not going to have to convince you, because you'll see the evidence. Go slowly, enjoy it, and always come to my site to get help. I have all kinds of help for everybody. I've done just about everything I can think of to help you, and I continue to update things and make things good for you, because I've got everything free on my site to see. I also have some paid stuff that you can do that gives you extra help. But even if you're just getting started, everything you need is right there. Go to the top of my page where it says Start Here. Pick the cultured food that most interests you, whether it's kefir, kombucha, or cultured vegetable. Whichever one seems to be most interesting to you, start with that. Don't do all three at once. I didn't do that either. Just pick the one. I promise you guys, it's not hard. It's just new to you. And I'm there if you need help. We have a contact page. You can contact me. We answer all of our emails. We try our best to help you all the time. And I have people helping that I've hired to do all that, and they do a great job. And we work with people because we want to see you healthy, because it makes the world a better place. And when you feel good, it's the thrill of my day. I get emails all the time from my staff will tell me, and the stories they tell me, they just make me cry. It's just, I never want to go back to sickness and disease. And that's why I keep doing what I'm doing. That's why I keep eating these foods. And you'll see that difference too. And I won't have to convince you. So if you'd like to get started, head over to culturedfoodlife.com. It's got everything on there that you need help with. Or keep listening to my podcast until you feel ready to. Or go to the store. Try a bottle of kombucha. Try some kefir. Homemade kefir is much better for you, but there's still a lot of benefits with store-bought kefir. And there's some good ones on the market too. Store-bought kombucha is fantastic. I love it. There's a few that I don't like, but for the most part, the people making kombucha are doing a bang-up job. It's much cheaper to make it yourself, and I can help you do that. Or if you don't have time, then buy it. I like GT's brands. There's a bunch of brands on there that are good. And you'll see the benefits. There's also cultured veggies you can buy at the store, and you can just try them before you jump in and start making them. And it's really cool because when you make a jar of cultured vegetables, they can last 9 months in your fridge. It's fantastic, and they get better with age. And all of these foods are perfectly preserved. Kefir lasts many, many months in your fridge. So does kombucha. And they preserve the foods by keeping so much good bacteria in them that keeps the harmful bacteria out. And they do that inside of you too. They preserve you, make you healthy, make you younger, and they change your ecosystem from the inside out. So I hope this helped you. I hope you remember your microbes every time you go to the grocery store. I hope you feed them. I hope you feel better. And I hope it changes your life as it has changed mine, because life is so much fun, but it's not fun if you don't feel good. So that's my job. I want to get you healthy so you can love your life again. And have a wonderful week, guys, and we hope to see you next week. And go to the grocery store and get some fiber for your microbes, and have a great week.